Good morning, everyone. My name is Victor Gordlow, and I'm Mayor of the City of Pasadena. Next to me is Councilmember Gene Masuda, who's a member of the City Council here in the City of Pasadena. Behind me are some of the top law enforcement officers in the region. And I'm here today together with our law enforcement officers in order to remind all of us as we go into a very happy time, all of us as kids, maybe in some of our minds it's a little bit foggier, but in most of our minds, so we all remember with great anticipation as kids the excitement of Halloween. And nothing should come between our kids and the joyfulness of holidays like Halloween. Special days where kids get to be kids, where kids get to be kids with other kids, where we as adults and parents get to be kids with our kids. Nothing should come between that. And regrettably, we've learned and we're concerned that fentanyl and other drugs may come between us, and we're not going to let that happen. And so what you're seeing today is a commitment on the part of law enforcement, a commitment on the part of the City of Pasadena to do everything we can to first send the message. If anyone is out there even thinking of committing a cowardly act and harming a resident of any city in this region or this state, or frankly this country, law enforcement will do everything that it can to bring you to justice. Law enforcement will do everything that it can to ensure that you are prosecuted. So don't do it. But to parents, let's be careful tonight. Let's double our efforts, not just for our own kids, but for all kids in our community. Be aware that in the city of Pasadena alone, we confiscated over 300,000 pills of fentanyl. The chief will talk more about that. But that's a lot of danger that those pills pose. And so this is a serious concern, a serious reminder to all of us to protect our kids, to ensure that they are safe from not just fentanyl and other drugs, but also let's keep in mind that a lot of kids are harmed by cars in our community, in every community, as they're out and about enjoying the Halloween festivities. And so I would remind all of us as parents, as we move around and as our neighbors move around our communities, wherever it may be, in Pasadena or beyond, be doubly careful. Know that there are going to be kids in the street. Know that those kids are going to be excited. Know that those kids may not be paying attention because they're distracted by other kids and they're distracted by candy and the excitement of trying to get more candy. And so you should also be aware of that as you're moving around through the city of Pasadena or any city in our community. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and everyone for keeping an eye out, not just for your own kids, but for all kids in our community and for your neighbors and friends as well. So once again, you can see that we are committed as a region to doing the right thing. We're going to work together to ensure that this is a safe Halloween. Coming out of COVID, people are excited to get out, and we should do everything we can to protect them. One more person I'd like to introduce is our city manager, Manuel Marquez, who of course leads the charge here in the city of Pasadena. So thank you all very much. Stay safe and let's protect one another. Y quiero decirles que en estas festividades de Halloween estamos preocupados porque hay mucho fentanil en todo sur de California. Los niños de nuestra comunidad tienen mucha anticipación, porque estamos saliendo del COVID, de la pandemia, y no han tenido esta oportunidad de salir, de disfrazarse, de salir a procurar dulces en la comunidad, de estar con sus amigos. Y nosotros también como padres estamos con anticipación para celebrar con nuestros hijos. Pero hay que cuidar a nuestros hijos, hay que ser consciente que esta droga es muy peligrosa. Hay que ser consciente que sí hay gente en nuestra comunidad que no es responsable. Y hay que ser consciente también que los dulces que les den a nuestros niños hay que revisarlos nosotros mismos. No nomás los dejen a los niños que se los coman si antes de que un padre los revise bien. Y también los automóviles. Hay que procurar cuando nosotros estemos moviéndonos en nuestras comunidades, sea en la ciudad de Pasadena o cualquier ciudad, procuren entender que hay niños, que hay familias que quizás no están poniendo tanta atención porque están celebrando y van a estar en la calle, van a estar cruzando la calle, a veces no en el semáforo. Por favor, tengan cuidado, anticipen que va a haber niños en la calle y cuídenlos. Cuiden a todos los niños como si fueran sus propios hijos. Muchas gracias y le voy a dar una oportunidad a los que están aquí con nosotros.
I'm the Interim Police Chief here in the City of Pasadena, and I welcome all of you, but I also want to thank all of my state, federal, and local city partners behind me as we are fighting the same epidemic in our own communities of fentanyl and or other opioid abuses. My opinion is fentanyl has no place in our society outside of a medical laboratory or a hospital setting, and yet we suffer every day with overdoses daily in the San Gabriel Valley of people who are ingesting some drugs that they think are maybe marijuana or cocaine or methamphetamine that's been laced with opioids and end up resulting in accidental deaths. We know all too well that we all have friends, family, or associates and other acquaintances that have had victims of opioid overdoses in their families, and we know that it just doesn't affect one person who accidentally kills himself while ingesting drugs. It affects the family, but it also affects society as well, because sometimes these users are out breaking into homes and breaking into cars, victimizing all of us to get their hands on money to purchase these narcotics. We saw a incident about 2 years ago here in Pasadena where one female was responsible for distributing fentanyl-laced cocaine throughout her buyers, and we had 7 overdoses all within a couple-day period, which resulted in 4 deaths. And luckily enough, my special investigations section conducted the investigation and found who this person was before more people were killed. And thanks to our federal partners, we secured a federal prison sentence for 15 years for this woman who was distributing narcotics. Again, fentanyl has no place in our society. It boils down to personal responsibility, number one, but also for all of us. We do some prevention through education. We want to intervene and get people into help. And sometimes we do enforcement and we have to put people into jail. But again, if it takes all of us to help one person, and if we can help that person, you know, you're going to affect the lives of many. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our federal partners, William Bodner from DEA.
I'd just like to briefly touch on a couple points related to Halloween risks. The first one is not new. It's something that's been around forever, and that's when we have kids out in the community and they're going door to door and they're holding a bag open and a stranger's putting something in that bag. There's always a risk, albeit a very small risk. There's always a risk that they're going to encounter someone who chooses to do harm to them, right? That's unfortunate. That's not new. How do we protect ourselves from that? How do we protect our children from that? I encourage parents to go trick-or-treating with their kids. I encourage parents to inspect the candy when they get home, make sure it's a brand they recognize, make sure the packages are unopened, and if possible, secure that candy in the house. And when your child wants the candy, open it and inspect what's actually inside the wrapper. And like I said, that's not something new. That's some precautions that hopefully we've been taking for a number of years. Here's what's new this year, and you've probably heard a lot about it, and I want to explain very specifically where the threat is. This is rainbow fentanyl, and you can see a picture here of these multicolored pills. So there was an incident last week at Los Angeles International Airport where LA County Sheriffs and DEA seized 12,000 of these pills, and they were packaged in candy wrappers. Skittles bags, Sweet Tart boxes, Whopper boxes. So what does that mean? That is a smuggling method or a concealment method. That doesn't mean that someone's going to put that bag or box in a child's trick-or-treat bag, but here's where the danger is. Had we not seized those drugs in those candy bags and boxes, they would have ended up in someone's home that night. There's no doubt about that. It's not like someone goes to do a drug deal and they put a hand out and empty the contents of the box. The reason they put it in that nondescript packaging is to hide it from law enforcement and to hide it from other people. So a bag of Skittles that contains fentanyl pills goes into a drug dealer's home, and there happens to be kids in that home. And it's Halloween time. And maybe that child then takes that bag and takes it to school with them, and that's where we have the danger of fentanyl in my mind this Halloween. It's the fact that candy packaging has been used as a smuggling and concealment method, and those bags and boxes go into people's homes where there's children. So I would like everyone to be aware of that. It's not necessarily a trick or treat threat. That threat has always been there, that there are people out there that want to harm children. But this new thing with the packaging like candy, be aware of that, talk to your children about that, and ideally they would not share candy or not take candy from other people at school if they don't know where it came from. Thank you.
As the principal investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security, the men and women of HSI are on the front lines in battling this fentanyl trafficking. Given that Los Angeles is just 2.5 hours north of the busiest land border crossing in the Western Hemisphere, it has become one of the largest fentanyl distribution hubs out there. In the past 3 fiscal years, my office has seen an 80% average increase year over year of the amount of fentanyl that we're seizing. We have seized more fentanyl in this month so far than we did all of fiscal year 2019. If this trend continues, we're looking at seizing 3 times the amount of fentanyl than we seized the prior year. So what does this all mean? This means that fentanyl is a serious and growing threat. This is a problem that affects people from all walks of life, from big cities to hometowns like here in Pasadena. Sadly, we've all seen in the news that there are more and more children dying from fentanyl poisoning. So this is a problem that requires an all-hands-on-deck solution. And part of that solution is for parents to remain vigilant, not just during Halloween, which we're talking about today, but at all times. So please talk to your children, your neighbors, your family, and friends. And while you're doing that, you have my commitment that HSI will continue to work day in and day out with the Pasadena Police Department, the DEA, and our other law enforcement partners to remove this poison from the streets of Pasadena and from communities all across the Southland. Thank you.
As a representative of the Los Angeles County Police Officers Association, I wanted to join Pasadena Police Department and the City of Pasadena, letting everyone know that every police chief in the county is committed to a safe Halloween and to a safe holiday season as we move forward through this year. As someone who has had a friend, son die from a fentanyl overdose, I know the pain, I know the sorrow, and I know just the anguish that families have and parents have when losing a loved one to something like this. And I just want to end it with saying that we are committed to the safety of our children and making sure that they have a great and fun evening on Monday. Thank you.
I get the privilege of shifting gears a little bit and talking more about Halloween safety, because truly Halloween is all about our young friends here. So a few recommendations to make sure your kids leave safely and come home safely. Before leaving your home, please review just a few safety tips with your children. Plan your route and travel in groups if possible. Share your route with your parents or loved ones if they're not going with you. It's best to visit people that you know on blocks and neighborhoods that you're familiar with. Stay clear of poorly lit blocks and homes. Venture out while it's still light out. And if you do go out while it's dark, bring a flashlight or a glow stick. We recommend staying away from busy commercial streets and blocks. On the fire safety side, avoid decorating with candles. Instead, use glow sticks. If you must use a candle, make sure that it's well secured and sturdy so that it won't fall over. Most important, review with your children how to stop, drop, and roll so that if their costume does catch fire, they know what to do in that event of an emergency. It's also important to make sure that their costumes are flame resistant and that they don't have long trailers that could easily either cause a hazard or if they do catch fire, spread. Make sure if they're wearing a mask, there's adequate opportunity for them to see with good eye holes. And make sure an adult checks all candy. If something doesn't look right, throw it away. And if you see something, say something. And finally, and most important, on behalf of our children, we want to make sure they have a very fun and happy Halloween. Thank you.
And just a few reminders about other threats that are facing our community in the form of respiratory illnesses. Over the last 2 years, the last week of October and early November have been proven to be turning points in the fight against COVID-19. During the holiday season, variant surges in 2020 and 2021 led to significant increases in COVID-19 cases locally and across the nation. Like in years past, variants of concern have emerged, and the Pasadena Public Health Department is working with regional and state public health partners to monitor COVID-19 case data. Respiratory diseases, including COVID-19, influenza, and respiratory syncytial virus known as RSV, increase in winter months as people head indoors and gather with others. The flu season is already off to an early start, and cases of RSV are on the rise. The most susceptible to getting sick and spreading illness include children and older adults. As you prepare plans for gathering with your family and friends this holiday and Halloween season, the Pasadena Public Health Department encourages you to get vaccinated against the flu and ensure you are up to date with the COVID-19 bivalent booster. If you are hosting a gathering, get tested for COVID-19 and communicate expectations to your invited guests, including asking them to test the day of the gathering and requesting that they stay home if they're not feeling well. Assess your personal and environmental risk to determine if additional layers of protection are needed, such as wearing a mask and washing or sanitizing your hands frequently. These precautions can reduce your and your loved one's risk for illness and protect the most vulnerable among us. Thank you for doing your part to protect and preserve the health of the Pasadena community.
We are prepared. I'd like to thank the men and women in all law enforcement departments, in every health department, and all of the leaders in every neighborhood, and all parents who are going to do the job of looking out not only for their own kids, but for all kids. I'd like to thank our federal partners and other police chiefs who are here, including our chief here in the city of San Marino and Sierra Madre. We're prepared, and we're asking everyone else to stay prepared to protect our kids. This is what it's about, as Chief Augustine says. It's protecting kids, it's protecting our families, and it's protecting our friends. And let's go that extra step and make sure that they have a fun and safe Halloween. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Give a thumbs up. All right, thank you, everyone.